Very good evening, all of you. Good evening. It's a great pleasure to be again in this platform for the third consecutive year to share some of my insights from the industry side, especially integrating industry and academia. And what are the challenges in that? What are the patterns that you can see in that? And more importantly, what is Triple Helix model? How the integration of academia, industry, and the government can do a lot of innovation and adding wealth creation to the economy. So all these things I thought of talking today under the topic, the future employee, the role of higher education in developing the skill sets for the future workforce. Universities and higher educations are not place of learning only to just get certificates and degrees and your scholarly understanding. Most of these students who come out of the higher educations are the future employees or future entrepreneurs. Am I correct? Let's have an interactive session, correct? So don't you think that it's a great role, a great responsibility for all of us as academicians and higher educationalists to create the right skill sets that is required for the industry, correct? So that's what we are going to understand today. I'm having some issue. Okay. Knowledge has to be improved, challenged, and increased constantly, or it vanishes, correct? And that's what we can see in any learning process, including the pedagogy. Even the pedagogy which we are doing has to be improved, otherwise it will be outdated. And we talk about the future employee and future employment and the future education system. We cannot ignore the industrial revolution that has undergone. Most of our education systems are also controlled or rather impacted by the industrial revolution which we had in the past. The first industrial revolution is basically based on the steam engine, correct? It's based on the steam power. And second, it's based on the electricity. And the third is based on electronics, which is the advent of computers. And later, we have the Industrial Revolution 4, which is basically on the artificial intelligence and robotic systems, which is what we're currently into. So we want to touch upon these technologies, how it is going on, and how that can, I think it's getting in auto mode. It's getting in auto mode. Okay. Now we are talking about the Industrial Revolution 4.0, where you can see that a lot of these technologies are there in the market. Are we integrating these technologies or knowledge in our curriculum? Hey, yes. Still doubtful? Maybe yes. Fully? Halfway? Correct? Let's talk. What is digital twins? What is can you? Yeah. Is okay now? Yeah. Technology glitch off. Okay. So there is IoT, Internet of Things, called about augmented reality, 3D printing, virtual reality, agri-tech. You know, I just want to give some example. I work for the industry where we are into hydroponics, agriculture, manufacturing, or producing industry where we produce lettuces in these deserts. But believe me, the so-called agri-tech, where using artificial intelligence, we could see how much of water and resources are required from the seedling till it reaches to the plate of the consumer. We call them as from farming to plate. And this wasn't possible before with traditional agriculture process where we wasted a lot of resources, both human resources and also mineral resources and soil and water, which was actually reduced to almost 1/10 or almost 1/20th of the resource we used before because we have something called precision farming. So all this technology has to be taught in any universities, am I correct? Can you create an agricultural university student without having the technology knowledge? He might have the understanding of agriculture, but what is the real technology that is being used in the current industry or current practice? That's very important. When you talk about digital biomarkers, in the industry of healthcare, we are now using AI and other technology on biomarkers which can predict the disease that can come based on your current lifestyle, age, food pattern, the country which you live in, the culture where you live in, the stress you undergo, the cities where you live in. All this collectively can put into data and tell you at what age you might get into what type of diseases or your health issues that is possible to predict. Not to make them afraid of what they will get, but to greater, I would say, proximity and accuracy we can predict, which means we are able to proactively control our medications and health style, and also you call about your healthcare systems can do a better job on that. So are we teaching this in our hospitals, and are we teaching them to the doctors, or are we teaching to the healthcare professionals who are coming in the future? So all these technologies do have an impact on your education, correct? Now coming to the field which I belong to, finance, we call something called quantum computing. Just let's put what is quantum computing. It's an offspring of quantum physics, where it goes to the very minute level of understanding, where today, due to terrorist funding, or we call them as using the funds in a bad manner in a society, the government are not able to understand. They call something called anti-money laundering. But tomorrow, when they issue currencies using quantum computing or quantum financial system, every 1 dirham, every $1 you spend can be tracked by the government where you're spending in. Hey, correct? Now, they can't understand where your car goes. Yes. Where the accidents are made, where the fines are given. The government has full control and understanding, because to protect the society from anything on the wrongdoings. So, you talk about finance people, are they equipped on the quantum computing and quantum financing? Still a doubt. So, all these technologies will be having a big impact, and I think we're all talking about 2 days on this particular topic, artificial intelligence, and that is the future, and the future is already here. It's not going to be in another 10 to 20 years. It's already there. How it's going to impact our academy also, and industry will understand. If you talk about the technology adoption, in a survey that is made by the World Economic Forum, it talks about digital platform apps. 86% of the industrialists are there adopting it. If you talk about education and workforce development technologies, 80%. See, in education, AI technologies are being adopted almost 80% of the people who we got served across the globe. So you can see how various technologies like robots are at only 51%. You've already seen one robot system sitting out, which talks almost 12 languages in front of us. And time is not very far where you will see that these percentage will go up in future. And if you talk about the artificial intelligence strategies from 23 to 27, the probability that organizations surveyed will prioritize skills training in AI, if you look at it, at the various industry levels, from mining to metals to real estate, you can see most importantly the education, that is somewhere in the 60%, which means 60% of the survey people already said they are in the process of adopting AI in their field of education and training industry. If you talk about technology revolution and disruption in terms of how AI and machine learning is going on, high potential for automation gaining forward. The task will be performed by LLMs, that is large language models. High potential for augmentation where humans will still be there. Low potential where the humans will be having more role. And there are some small areas of unaffected areas where humans will still continue to do, not the computers will replace for next 5-6 years. And if you look at it, jobs with the highest potential for automation, which means humans will not be mostly doing it in next 4-5 years. Basically, they are basically at the transaction level works like credit authorizers, checkers, clerks, management analysts, telemarketers, statistical assistants. All these areas, you can see almost 50 to 80% of automation possibility, which means there is no jobs for that in future that will be done by humans. But these people have to be reskilled. It's not that these people will not have jobs forever and sit at home. They have to be reskilled. And where they'll get reskilled? Most probably in the higher education levels. Post to that, they have to also get lifelong learning of training so that they are really into the job market. If you talk about the job functions with highest exposure, automation, augmentation, IT. You might think, why IT is getting into a big risk of automation and augmentation? Anybody can answer? Why IT itself is in the first higher stages where it can get mostly automated? Because no code concept. Now the robots itself will write its own code. Correct? We have the languages like C, C++, now it is Python. Now Python is getting programmed into the robotic system which will write its own code. So we are talking about even the IT industry people are highly exposed to their automations. And of course, finance, consumers or customer sales, operations. So there is no, if you talk about legal systems, how you all visited the lawyer rooms. I don't want you to go to lawyers for any reason. I'm just telling you, if you have gone to any lawyer's office, you can see bulk books sitting there. Am I correct or not? Out of all the professions, which profession has a lot of books collection in their offices? Lawyers, right? They have to refer to a lot of cases, past judgments, the latest amendments, last 10 years of cases, correct? Now, what the AI systems or computer systems are helping us, if they just put one scenario of that particular case which is dealing with, it can give a lot of analysis and summary of cases within fraction of seconds, where they will take nights and days to read and then compile the understanding, then come to the court with their court notes to discuss and argue. But this time is now saved for them, correct? So there are no field that is left without an area of automation and augmentation. And if we talk about embracing AI revolution, you can see these are all the various levels where already it has taken over. And this is very important now. Slowly I'm getting into the integration of the industry and the academia. This is called the race between the technology and the education. How many of you have seen this graph? As I told you, as industrial revolution is going on, the pattern between the education and the technology is always mixed, correct? There were ages during the time of Einstein, 100 years back, 80 years back, the research and the knowledge was so abundant and very far that is taught in the colleges and universities than the technology that is being used in the practical world, correct or not? So this is a time where I would say the yellow color, which is the education is above the technology, which we call them as prosperity period for human generation. Because you have a great knowledge, you go to the job, you confidently do the job, you get your jobs. But now we are in a position which we call them as the social pain, where the technology is higher than the education. We are currently in that situation. In many of the sessions we talked, I think even the last session they talked, if we teach them chat GPT today, how long they can survive with that knowledge, there is a question. So we are in a very, very disruptive world where even the curriculum which you design more current and the most updated, still how far it will be valuable for next 3-4 years, there is a question about it. So there is a gap where the technology is far than the education, so which means there is a greater role for the educationalists to tap this gap and reduce it as much possible. And when you try to do that, you can create the social pain change into a prosperity, and that is what this particular slide talks about. Now let's talk about trends in higher education. Learning from everywhere, that is in higher education. We talk about it, learn from anywhere, correct? During the COVID times, you can sit at any place and learn from anywhere. But that has moved to now learn from anywhere to learn from everywhere, correct? And in the morning session, we had also a panel session where I was sharing my insights. There has to be a system of learning where you don't learn from one university and get one degree. It has to be a multi-varsity or a multi-university based learning where a law school that is coming from Singapore can be linked to MIT in US, where any legal framework required for solving the technology-related issues of legal systems, which we can connect it. Currently, we do not have that. There are very few universities where there are joint programs. So we need to create cross-border learning where there is actually a... I think there is a glitch there. Sorry. Yeah. So if you talk about that, so we are now talking about the trends in higher education is learn from everywhere. It's not from learn from only anywhere. Then you talk about, is it possible to fix it? Sorry for that. I think we need to manage the robots in future. Huh? No props. So if you talk about the technology that is coming in higher education, the next thing is, have it in my mind, no need to refer to the slide. We call them as MOOC. Okay? Massive open online classes. What is the basic idea of that? What is the basic idea of that? I'll come to that anyway. So here we're talking about before that, the European University or business school ISAD has already gone into that concept of learn from anywhere to everywhere, where they put the students in different platforms in different countries so that they get a very immersive learning of that. And hybrid learning and true immersive and experiential learning is what the need of the hour. Now let's get into the next thing, replacing lectures, and I'll come to the mock very soon, with active learning. We are all coming from the generation where we listen to a lot of lectures, correct? Correct? I said little interaction is required. Is there anybody who learned from AI systems? No, I don't think. We may be just starting. We all came from long lectures of learning in the universities and schools, correct? What is the great thing about learning, or what is the great thing about the pedagogy of lecturing? It's an efficient way of teaching, but the most ineffective way of learning. That's a problem. From the teacher's perspective, they came, they lectured, they did the job. But what is the perspective from the listeners or the students? Was it effective? So there is a research that has been done, and it is also titled as Bingus Forgetting Curve. When you listen to a long lecture for 1 or 2 hours, the forgetting curve is very high because it is not reinforced over a period of time. So instead of that, if there is a stage of learning of same subjects or same topic over a period of time, the forgetfulness or the memory loss is very, very less. That's what they say. Education institutions need to demonstrate effective learning outcomes, and some are starting to embrace teaching methods that rely on the science of learning. Correct? So the pedagogy of the future, or the current pedagogy, should look at how the way they will lecture, how they'll deliver the programs. That has to be, there is another program based on this called AR. We'll touch on that. How continuous learning is going to be a great learning instead of just listening to the lectures and going on. So what are the future of education would be? There is a Valley faculty fellows. They've done a research. I very liberally took from them. I give the credit to them. I'm just referring to their research. Okay. If you look at it from the student's perspective, how the changes happened. The changes, they became from a student mindset to a consumer mindset. Students are no more students. They are consumers. Do you agree? They come with a lot of demand. They're not just going to be ready with your regular class patterns of solving some problems. No, they demand a lot from you. Who demands a lot from you? Who is never happy? Your customer, right? And to meet the customer's requirements continuously, eternally, that is the job of a producer or a supplier, correct? If you talk about the economics of supply and demand, the demand is, it's called demanding, right? We say demand is demanding. So consumers' mindset is demanding, and that's the color these students have taken now. They want to understand the concepts. Clear? A lot of classes in the past have learned the conceptual clarity itself was really lacking. Okay, then we moved on to give concepts to the students from rote learning. Correct or not? Can I ask you a fundamental question? Can anybody explain me what is meant by adding in mathematics? Just adding, addition. We are all taught addition, right? Can you please explain me what you mean by addition? I'm not asking you to add 2 plus 3, that is 5. We all know that. But what is the philosophy, or what is the concept behind the process of addition? Hey, anybody? It's a very simple question, but simple things are very difficult in life. Similarly, we're all taught 2 minus 1 is 1. That is subtraction, to subtract. Do you understand? Now we are all expert in doing subtractions, but do you really understand the fundamental philosophy or the conceptual clarity of what is subtracting? Hey, what is the next operations we all learn? If you take a calculator, you see always this 4. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Correct or not? Hey, anybody can explain me what you mean by multiplication? 2 times 5 is 10. We all know. But what does it mean? Okay, if you would have understood addition, then what is multiplication? I've spent a lot of years in my schooling till 12th grade, and I was never told in schools, never told in universities, that multiplication is nothing but repetitive addition. Multiplication is nothing but repetitive addition. Division is nothing but repetitive subtraction. So we have deduced the subtraction, we have deduced the multiplication and division to only to this original process of addition and subtraction, correct or not? So it goes to the fundamentally what? Only addition and, if you would understand what is addition and subtraction, the extension of that is multiplication and division. Then people who go to the higher levels of mathematics, thanks, even though I'm a finance student, I studied engineering mathematics. In higher order of mathematics, you study something called derivatives. Inside the derivatives, I'm not taking a class on mathematics, just to tell you how conceptual clarity is very important. You'll see there is something called integration and differentiation, correct? Integral calculus, a long elongated S, and differential calculus dy by dx, correct? Can anybody explain to me what you mean by integration and what you mean by differentiation? I'm not asking you to differentiate 2x squared plus 4x plus 4 is equal to, as the first derivative is 4x plus 2 and 0. And if you deduce, finally it becomes 0. But what do you mean by that? If you really understood, integration is nothing but an extension of addition. It's in a higher order of multiplication. It's in a higher order of addition. Differentiation is again a higher order of division. If differentiation is a higher order of subtraction, if integration is higher order of multiplication, what is the difference between multiplying and integrating? What is the difference between differentiation and subtracting? Again, we do not know. If you want to add fastly the finite things, you multiply. If you want to deduce something very fastly, you do division. If you want to add something which is infinite, the area of an amoeba, which is very indefinite, you have to use only calculus of integration. So you deduce everything. Fundamentally, the world of mathematics revolves only around addition and subtraction, which is the law of duality, we call it as. It's the law of, because in the universe, I'll be a little philosophical, but in philosophy there is a theory which we can universalize light. Of all the creations God has made or the universe has made, there is a gender, and there is 2 genders. There is no 15 genders. There is only day and night. There is only sun and moon. So the world is running on duality. And that is what represents as positive and negative, if you want to call it as. Anyway, this is the rule which we understood over a period of time. Move from rote learning to conceptual learning. But conceptual learning alone is not going to create great societies. What is the next stage? You need to apply and create value. You need to create, correct? When Western countries, like a lot of theories were brought in, Japanese went into practicality, correct or not? Correct? Japanese were not the founders of cars. They were not the inventors of car. It was invented from Ford's side, correct? Now today, look at the practical application of the automobile technology. Japanese brings the best car in terms of the best price, and now Chinese are overriding it in other countries. No, I'm just telling you how practical application is important, correct or not? And this practical application is not to be stopped. It has to get into innovation. All these are possible only when we create a fantabulous curriculum and a fantabulous academy and higher education. And for that, the tangible results are very, very important. Your conceptual learning alone is not great. Conceptual learning can turn you into a professor, but that professing has to be turned out into a practical application. And that's what tangible results. So student asks you, hey, I'm learning this, Mr. Professor. What is it I'm going to get out of it? Where's the application of it? Correct or not? Then we have something called demand for engaging experiences, challenges in the classroom. And if you look at the faculty, they have to be technology savvy. Their conceptual clarity, their academic background is not going to help anymore. Even to conduct a session, they need a lot of tools. Correct? Let's take a class of a chemistry where they talk about mixing some chemicals, correct? I was taught in my schools in grade 9 in 1989, how do you produce a sulfuric acid H2SO4 from a chamber process? Still, I remember only the 10 chambers. Today, people are teaching them through very, very lively, not diagrams, lively films, running movies, how the chamber process works and how do you get a oleum, and diluted oleum becomes an H2SO4. So classrooms are getting very, very, I would say, techno-savvy. So professors have to be multidisciplinary. Today, previous session, you listen to ethnography from a design speaker, right? You can give this session to a finance person. Tomorrow, you will understand how ethnography can be costing for a particular project. So ethnography knowledge, little bit is required even for a finance person, correct or not? And a financial knowledge is required for an entrepreneurial person who will become a future entrepreneur in the ethnography industry. So interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary knowledge is very, very important. Are we inculcating? That's a new teaching methodologies and more efficient grading, correct? Grading is just not taking and getting one out of one. No, there are a lot of the exam grading, of the exam, grading throughout the classrooms, how he interacts, what are his social skills. Do we have a grading methodology to calculate the personality skills in terms of how they have a friendship, how they conduct, how they have a empathy? Do we have a grading for empathy? It's not easy, but we need to develop it, correct? Institutions also have to invest a lot of the future of institutions. There is more technology to be done. Complex thinking is required. Adaptation to workplace needs. That's what I'm saying. You don't create just students with degrees. You need to create future employees. So for that, a good integration of industry and the universities are required. Now, coming to the KPMG Connected Enterprise for higher education, I'm just throwing light due to the amount of time. I'm just not getting too much detail. Go through it later on. It's a very well thought about process, how higher education systems can incorporate these in improving their levels in terms of becoming a University 4.0 or Education 4.0. I'm not going to take much of the time. This diagram is shown for you. You can have a research understanding on that later on. Now, core features of Education 4.0 or the University 4.0. First is digital technology is the most important thing. You integrate technology in everything. You teach legal systems. If you talk about very, very difficult subjects like legal systems, you can create a real-time boardroom of sessions as to a person coming from Africa. He went into another country, he got into a legal dispute, and the people who are encountering them are people who are discussing the legal case with them, because you can have multi-discipline and multi-country and multi-language or multicultural related cases coming in an international court of law or international situation of law. In that case, you can create a live situation and do it. And for all these things, you need a technology. For example, sometimes you don't even understand the language what the other country person when he lands in another country and gets in a dispute of some local dispute. So as a lawyer, you can be given training as a law student, how it can be done. Now, nothing to talk about technology. You can do a lot of technology, real-time cases, real-time situations, how to develop and innovate. So inculcating digital technologies are very, very important. Flipped classrooms, right? What is flipped classrooms? Okay, before flipping how a classroom looks like, there is one to many, right? There's one professor and many students. Think about just flipping it. There are many professors, only one. Correct? So when I was a student of finance of chartered accounting from India, there was literally only one author for one textbook, one subject, and maybe one more author. And to reach to the other author textbooks, I have to roam many libraries. Now, do you think that's a scenario? The same concept of chat GPT, how to learn, you can have thousands of results, correct or not? But the only thing is you should not get confused. But again, the resources are there. So it is basically MOOC, which is the massive open online courses. Then you talk about open and distance learning, which we all know. The most important next is basically the anticipated action reflection cycle. This is very, very important as a practical learning where you don't take a program and finish it in 1 year, 2 years. There's no pressure that you should get your master's degree in 2 years. What's a pressure? Because we know to show there is a certificate I have, correct or not? But this is a practical inducted learning of you are working and also learning together over a period of time. For example, you studied a technology concept in your curriculum, then you take 2 months, go and apply it and see it in your job, then come back and reflect, and then again relearn. In this way, you don't forget something what you learned. You are also practicing it as much as possible so that it's a theory come practice and reflection. And that's a model which is more effective in the modern world. Instead of you hurrying to get a degree certificate or a bachelor's certificate or a master's certificate and say, hey guys, I'm certified. Now the problem is we have people with a lot of certifications, and if they get into the practical world, it's really difficult to deal with them. Yeah. And the more hats they bear, there's a lot of expectation also from them. I'm just talking about my own field. If anybody from finance or in accounting, there is something called journal entries, which we make debit and credits, okay? There are a lot of people with a lot of certifications coming. When you do them an interview and ask them basic questions on what journal entry for this transaction, they literally stumble. The reason is even the exam systems have become more where they just want to give credentials and make them pass. I'm not telling you should not do that way, but where is the practical understanding also? That's very important, correct? So AAR is one of the best cycle to learn. Of course, in future, you're not going to be dealing with humans. You're going to deal with co-humanoids. Co-humanoids. Our curriculum is ready to teach how to deal with co-humanoids. That's a big challenge we need to address. And we'll talk about triple helix model also. That's a trend. We talk about UNESCO's global citizen. How to create a global citizen? There are a lot of flat things. There should be lifelong learning, and just lifelong learning, self-agency, interactively using diverse tools and resources, interacting with others, interacting with the world, very important. Multiliterateness and transdisciplinary, these two are very, very important. Jack of all trades, jack of and perfect in at least one or two trades. You should be a multiliterate and also transdisciplinary. Education reform, if you want to be relevant in the education sector, you need to understand what is being taught, how it is taught, when and where it is taught, and whom we are teaching. If you take these parameters, I think you'll do a good job. Now let's talk about triple helix model. Next 2-3 minutes I have, I'll finish it. Okay. Triple helix model talks about how to integrate. I'll come to this. Yes, how to integrate these 3 segments so that you can see the Museum of the Future, the American Institute of Sharjah, Masdar, all are working on this particular thing so that you can create wealth in the organization, in the economy by doing this a triple helix model. I've talked about this, and these are the various institutions which is working on the triple helix model of integrating academia, industry, and the government hand in hand. And the future of work will be like this, and I'm just showing some highlights. 23% of the jobs today will change. 50% of all the employees will be needing reskilling by 2025. This is what told 2 years back, and we are already in 2025 and still seeing there is a gap there. 44% of the workers' core skills are expected to change in the next 5 years. And if you look at the human-machine frontier, now it is 34%. In future, humans will be replaced with machines with almost 43% of frontiers. And skills and technology gaps, if you talk about diversity and inclusion, we talk about a lot of, in this diversity and inclusion, we are not talking about only gender equality. I think in future there will be a rule, you should have 40% robotics in your systems. Maybe they're also treated as humans. They'll be part of your diversity and inclusion. And green transition and sustainability is going on, very important. Top 10 skills, analytical thinking, and very importantly, if you look at fast growing and fastest declining jobs, you can see most of the routine jobs are getting declined. If you talk about the largest growth and largest declining jobs also, I would say 10 skills on rise, critical and creative thinking and analytical thinking are very, very important. This cannot be easily replaced by computers soon. And if you talk about the same thing repeated, I just want to talk about finally two slides. The McKinsey 56 Delta model, I think you should take a picture of it. And if time permits, do a research on it. This would help you as academicians, how to incorporate this McKinsey model in your curriculum and try to map these two so that you create future employees in a better manner. In short, this 56 deltas are summarized into cognitive, interpersonal, self-leadership, and finally digital. If you look at the 4 quadrants, which is the most important, out of the 4 quadrants, 3/4 are non-technical. Understand that. The summary of the slide is, out of the 4 quadrant, 3 out of 4 are only cognitive, interpersonal, and self-leadership. Why? This is not easy to replace with robotics, at least in the next 30-40 years. So please develop this curriculum also in your skills in your curriculum so that you make your employee future-proof. And of course, learning, unlearning, and relearning is applicable to every individual, and more important also to academicians like us and also to universities. I'm just showing a picture not everybody might be aware of. He's one of the famous actor from southern India. His name is Kamal Hassan. I do not know how many of you know you. He's almost touching his age 70. He's a famous actor, okay? He is nominated even for Oscars and he could not win it. But what is more important is he is already registered with MIT to study something on artificial intelligence. So see, such people might come to your universities, how you're going to create a curriculum for them. That's more important, right? It's not people like 20, 25 years they're going to study. Even these people might come to your universities. You need to cater those needs. He is expert in acting and film making, but he is going to understand artificial intelligence. Is your curriculum ready for him? Look at it. So the future of employment and education is not a fixed destination, but a dynamic and collaborative process that involves multiple stakeholders, perspectives, and scenarios. It is up to us to shape it and make it a positive and transformative force for humanity. So with this small note, I thought of winding up. Thanks a lot for giving this opportunity. It's a... Okay. Thank you. It's a great platform. Thanks to Dr. Ravi for arranging such international platforms. This is my 3rd consecutive here. where I come and contribute as a speaker, invariably on 1 or 2 sessions, one panel, one independent session. I really look forward for many sessions in future also, inshallah, because as an industry practitioner, I feel I have more role and a more responsibility to give back to the academia so that we all work together and make a better world. Thanks for that once again. Thank you.